Hi folks, bookshelf bingo time once more. This was a new feature that I introduced last month. To avoid my entire month of reading being down to the fickle finger of fate, I'm going to allow myself this month and going forward, I think, 3 readers' picks. So books that I choose myself, and then the other 9 that I'm going to pick, which are my candidate books, if you like, for TBR for the month. I may or may not get through that many. A couple will be held in reserve, I expect. As well as 3 readers' picks, we're introducing another rule. Last month we had the concept of a mulligan, where if the bingo balls of fate selected a shelf for me where I just really didn't fancy reading anything on it, or I'd read it all or whatever, then I could take a mulligan and pick another shelf. This time around I'm going to add a slight variation, so I can still do that, I can still take a mulligan, but instead of just picking another shelf, I need to pick a book by an author that I haven't yet read, either from my list of shame that I declared at the end of last year for this year, or just another random book from an author that I haven't read anything by yet, but I really should. So without further ado, let us see what the fickle finger of fate has in store for me for June 2024. First couple of balls are out. 55, 47, 41, 7, that's one of my vintage shelves, 42, 46, all the 40s today, 52, interestingly they're all high numbers, 2 more, 31, and 49, all the 40s today. Right, let's go from the bottom to the top this time, so shelf 41 and 42. So this is shelf 41. So contenders here that I haven't read. I haven't read Doors of Eden. I haven't read Alien Clay. I haven't read Embassy Town or Kraken or Iron Council actually, but Embassy Town of the Mievilles is probably the one that I'd like to read. I haven't read The Passage either. I'd like to read that. Or I could read one of my newish Greg Bear books. Tempting. I think I'm going to go with the Tchaikovsky though, Alien Clay. So that's shelf 41. This one down here is 42. And this is very handy because I was going to choose Demon in White for one of my 3 readers picks this month. So I've effectively got another 3 readers pick now. So that's the 3rd book in the Sun Eater series, which I'm very keen to read. Shelf 55 is down here in the gloom. So let's see, I could read Limit, although that's very chunky. Don't fancy the Clarks. There's Empire of Fear that I will get to at some point. So I'm actually going to pick the Terraformers. That's a newish book. I haven't read it. Shelf 7 next. That's one of the vintage shelves. Well, I say vintage. They're mostly vintage. A format shelves, probably better to say. So shelf 7 is up here. Let's see. Man Plus is a definite possibility. I'd like to read that. Superior book to Gateway by all accounts. I could go with H. Beam Piper's Little Fuzzy. Not sure about that. Anubis Gates is meant to be very good. I could go with the Keith Roberts Chalk Giants. I've read The Furies. It's very good. Of those, I think, which will it be? I'm going to go with Man Plus. Maybe I need a system to help me choose where I've got more than one potential book on a shelf. Maybe I need to have a randomizer that just picks it for me as a potential future development in bookshelf bingo. So this is shelf 55. So I really should read some Gibson. I could continue with Red Rising. I will do that at some point. So that's a possibility. I could do some Christopher Priest down there, a bit more Jasper Ford. I think it should be some Gibson. He's on my list of shame. I haven't read any Gibson. I don't think I'm going to start with Neuromancer though. I think Burning Chrome is a short story collection. That's probably a good bite-sized place to start. Okay, shelf 49. So this is shelf 49, which is mainly fantasy actually. Whilst I would like to read actually I will read that, as I've been waiting to read it for ages. So that's the 3rd book of the Last King of Osternar, which is a sequel trilogy to Memory, Sorrow and Thorn. I've had it for ages, haven't read it yet, so let's do that, get it out of the way. I almost took a mulligan there, but I think that will, whilst it's fantasy, will allow it on this occasion. That's 49, then we need 47 and 46. So this is shelf 47, and my initial reaction was, oh bloody hell, I've read all the Expanse books, but I have not read Fire Upon the Deep. Sorry, A Deepness in the Sky. I have read Fire Upon the Deep. So that's probably an automatic pick. I've been wanting to read that for a while. Excellent. 46 is the Ian Banks shelf. And I think whilst I love Ian Banks, and I am gradually undertaking a reread, I tend to do those via audiobook, and I'll throw that in as a sort of wild card at some point. So I'm going to take a mulligan here, which means I have to choose something from an author that I haven't read before from elsewhere on the shelves. So let me have a think about that. I'll do that at the end, I think. I was excited initially because I thought that was shelf 31, but actually that's shelf 32. Shelf 31 is behind this. So I'm just going to move these so we can get a look at them. It's a shame because I know which book I would have picked off that shelf. So that is the slightly less impressive selection available on shelf 31. I would quite like to read Titan actually. So whilst it's not hugely impressive, I think that's what I'm going to do. Nice cover. From my list of shame then, since I've taken a mulligan, I think I'm going to pick a Jack Vance. And I think I'm going to pick, since I recently read Lord Valentine's Castle, I think I'm going to pick The Big Planet if I can find it. I'm sure I've got it somewhere. Maybe I don't. Well, what do you know? I actually don't have it. So I'm going to, in that case, I thought I did. In that case, I'm going to pick Star King, which is a space opera of sorts. All right. So for my readers' picks, 3 of them, I am going to pick, I was interested in this shelf before, I'm going to pick Mother of Eden, which is the second of the Eden trilogy. I've read that one already. It's very good. I think I'm going to read Tusks of Extinction as a slim novella. I think I'm going to pick another Adam Roberts book. So I've read a couple of his early books. I haven't read Salt yet, which I would like to read. I've read a couple of his early books and I've read one of his later books. So I should probably go with something in the middle. And I think I'm going to go with Land of the Headless, which sounds bonkers. So there they are in all their glory. Right, let's take a quick look at the books that I've chosen in no particular order. The first up is Alien Clay by Adrian Tchaikovsky. It's his new book. It was out earlier this year, January, February time, I think. So this is set on a prison colony, I think, and it's political prisoners, and one of them is the main character in this book, Professor Anton Dagdev, and he discovers something about the alien ecosystem which has far-reaching implications, and more than that I really don't know, so I'm looking forward to reading that. His work can be a bit hit and miss, but in my experience it's more hits than misses, and I like the fact that it's a singleton standalone book, so no big serious commitment with that one. And then I picked Vernor Vinge's A Deepness Upon the Sky, which is a fairly chunky book. And what's that? Did I hear you ask? Is that a first edition? Yes, it is a first edition, and it's very lovely it is too. It's pretty big and fat. It's 600 pages nearly. And this one is set 30,000, it's actually further in the past than I thought, 30,000 years before the events of A Fire Upon the Deep. The main character, Pham, it was also in A Fire Upon the Deep, is fairly anonymous cog in a big wheel in something called the Quang Ho Interstellar Trading Fleet. So more than that, I don't know. I hear very good things. I really loved A Fire Upon the Deep, so I'm very much looking forward to reading this. I'm intrigued to know if it's in fact better. We'll see. Next, another book I'm really looking forward to reading is Mother of Eden by Chris Beckett. I read the first one, Dark Eden, earlier this year and loved it. And if this book is even half as good as that, it will have been well worth my time during the next month. I gather from a brief look at the blurb that this one is set some generations after the first book. And in the first book, there was a sort of schism in the community of descendants of some astronauts that were stranded on a strange world where there is no sun, it's a free planet, and despite that the conditions are livable because the plants have a bioluminescence, so that's where the light comes from, such as this is quite dingy, and there's geothermal activity which makes it warm enough, otherwise it would be barely above absolute zero, and these descendants, several hundred of them, survive, but one of them, Johnny Red Lantern, is curious, and he can see that the community is going to fail because they've overhunted their little area, and despite the sort of dogmatic insistence on staying close to where the ship originally landed, he decides, no, I'm going off. Book ends with him having established a little community many miles away from the original one, and this takes up that story several generations later to that. But there's still interactions with the old one, and they are not friendly, is what I gather. Like I say, if it's half as good as the first one, then it will be great. And then it's The Land of the Headless by Adam Roberts, which the premise for this one is extraordinary. I'll read you the opening line. The opening line is, on Tuesday, a genetics material test confirmed my guilt, but of course this confirmation was only a formality. And on Wednesday, I was beheaded. My crime was adultery. So in this world, it's set on a planet in the distant future where society is shaped by strict adherence to the word of God as laid out in some sort of bastardized mix of the Old Testament and the Quran. So he's beheaded, so end of story, right? But no, because his brain is downloaded into a box of tricks, and that box of tricks is attached to his headless torso. And his headless torso can function in society, but obviously with the massive stigma of having had his head removed for crimes against against God. Much more than that, I don't know. I hear very, very good things about this book. I do like Adam Roberts' writing, so yet another book that I'm really looking forward to reading. That was one of my readers' picks. And then I've got Annalee Newitt's The Terraformers, which, as the name suggests, is about terraforming, kind of. So we're on a planet somewhere which is not fully fit for human habitation, and there's a team, the environmental rescue team no less, that are caring for the planet and its ecosystems that are developing. And this has been going on for some generations. And the premise of the story, as far as I can tell, is that hidden somewhere in a cavern under a volcano is another human community, or a community of some kind of, I'm not sure if they're human or alien or what, that shouldn't be there. And there are implications for the ongoing terraforming effort. So again, I think this is going to be a really good month. I'm really looking forward to that as well. And then I've got Ray Naylor's The Tusks of Extinction, which is a very slender book. It's a novella, 90 pages. The premise for this story is that mammoths have been brought back into existence from genetic material, some kind of cross with elephants. The foremost expert on elephants has been killed trying to protect the last remaining elephants from poachers. And her consciousness and all of that expertise is downloaded apparently into a mammoth brain, and she becomes the matriarch of the newly created herd of mammoths. So which sounds interesting. So that, that's going to be the work of a couple of hours to read. Looking forward to that. There's a theme here. Another one I'm really looking forward to reading. It's a bit of a chunky one, 600 pages. Actually, no, sorry, 750 pages, I think. Yeah. Christopher Rocchio, Demon in White, which is the third book of the Sun Eater series, which I have very much enjoyed so far. Book 1 was excellent. Book 2 was even better. So I'm interested to know if he can knock it out of the park with this one as well. So this is set sometime after the events of the second book. And Hadrian Marlowe and his Red Company have been fighting in various battles with the Cielcin, the aliens of the peace, who are on some sort of implacable mission to eradicate humanity from the galaxy. I think the really interesting thing about this series is we know where it ends. It ends with Hadrian Marlowe destroying the Cielcin and a big chunk of the Empire with a supernova. And the story is told in the form of a chronicles. It's Hadrian Marlowe looking back over his life and telling us a story. So is he a reliable narrator? We don't know. But it's done very well. And like I say, I really, really enjoyed the first two. Very much looking forward to that. Next is Starking by Jack Vance. I did notice, as you'll have seen from the video, after shooting the shelf selection process, that I do have The Big Planet, which is the book that I was going to pick. Never mind, I'm stuck with this one now. It's The Starking, which is a space opera. That now rare form of science fiction, a really rattling space opera. Great stuff. So this is a story of revenge. So Keith Gerson is somebody who's been wronged by the Starkings, who are a race of aliens that can conceal them. They're shapeshifters, effectively. They can conceal themselves as humans. And there are five books in a series, in the Demon Princes series, and it's Keith Gerson's mission to go kill each of them. And as far as I can tell, one of them is killed in each book. So that's what's ahead of me with that one. And then I've got John Varley's Titan, which is a sort of big dumb object kind of thing, I think. Some kind of double-wheeled space station kind of habitat thing is found in orbit around Saturn. But inside is like a mind-bending dimension, an endless landscape inhabited by creatures out of legend. And it's captured the crew of a NASA probe. So I do know a few people that have read it and say that they really enjoyed it, but it is like properly bonkers. It's bonkers along the lines of To Your Scattered Bodies Go by Philip Jose Farmer and other mind-bending books like that. And I'm going to pop my William Gibson cherry with Burning Chrome, which is a book of 10 short stories, including the short story that Johnny Mnemonic, which became a movie with, who the hell was it? Keanu Reeves. And interestingly, it's got a preface by Bruce Sterling, another cyberpunk writer that whose work I've enjoyed. Well, the one of his books that I've read, I enjoyed. I'm looking forward to reading that almost as much as I am to reading short stories. They're short stories. It's not a thick book. There are 10 of them in there. So I think that's going to be a good introduction to William Gibson. And then we've got Man Plus by Frederick Pohl, which is a tale of genetic manipulation. So I think the basic idea is that mankind is dying out on Earth, and we need to be gen-enged in order to survive in hostile environments. And I think that specifically it's Mars. Apparently it's a spellbinding book written by a brilliant writer at the height of his powers. What I have heard is this is significantly better than Gateway, which is a book of his that I read a couple of months back, and It was all right, but I didn't really get on with it very much. So I'm hoping for better things with that one. And then we've got Into the Narrow Dark by Tab Williams, which is the third and final part, I believe, of the Last King of Ostenard trilogy, which is a follow-on trilogy from Memory, Sorrow and Thorn, the very much acclaimed trilogy of Williams from the late 80s, early 90s. It's been a while since I read the second book, and I can't honestly say I remember a whole lot about it, but I do remember that the Norns were coming down from the north, the sort of resurgent Norns, the Scythi, their kind of elfish cousins, are hiding away in the deep forest, and Simeon's grandson is trying to sort stuff out, and then there's a traitor in the castle who we can all see, and it's obvious, but Simon can't. I really love the world in which this is set. I have a big soft spot for Memory, Sorrow and Thorn. I've read it a few times, and it's really good. It's a bit sort of sub-Tolkien, I suppose, but it is very, very good. And this trilogy less so, I think, but that could just be a measure of how much esteem I hold the first one in, rather than any objective measure. We'll see. So that's all the books that I have selected for June this year. What do you have planned to read during the next month? Do you select a TBR pile in advance, or do you just wing it and take the next one as it comes, as the mood takes you? Do let me know in the comments. I'm interested to know your process if you have one. As always, thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye for now.